Welcome to the Rob Sturma book launch for Heavy Heart, published by Moontide Press. We're so happy that you're here today. We have three incredible poets who are going to celebrate Rob on his birthday and his book release before we get to Rob's big show. So let us give it up for our first poet here today. Let me pull up the bio. Gigi Bella has been ranked the 10th woman poet in the world with the WOWPS 2017. Two-time Project X Bronx Poetry Champion, as well as a literal mermaid. She is also a Pink Door Fellow, a National Poetry Slam champion, semifinalist, and ranked within the top 25 teams in the nation at the 2018 National Poetry Slam. Her chapbook, Weird Things, was featured on the Instagram of pop singer-songwriter Sarah Bareilles. I don't know if that sentence was correct. There might have been some editing. Her other work is featured on Bud Poetry, Slam Find, and In What Are Birds, and is forthcoming in Maps for Teeth. That's a great title. And Knight's Library. Her book, Big Feelings, has been released with Game Over Books. Gigi, I am terribly sorry if I butchered any of that bio. Please forgive me. With thunderous silent applause. Give it up for Gigi, everybody.
Hi. Hello. You're good. No worries. I need to update my bio on my website, but we're good. I'm so thrilled to be here and really just having a large amount of joy about this show. So thank you, Rob, for including me. And yeah, I'm just stoked and honored to be reading with all these wonderful folks. Something that I think a lot of people don't know about me is that I got a degree in American Studies with a focus in popular culture, and I was writing a lot about pop culture for years before I was doing other stuff. So I love pop culture poems. They're very important to me, and I have so many that nobody ever wants to hear. So tonight is a set of new shit. These are all poems that haven't been read really anywhere else before. So I hope that you enjoy them. I'm dressed as Dr. Cali Torres from Grey's Anatomy. And that's so that I can wear my scrubs in my house because they're comfy and they breathe. And that is good and fun. The first poem that I am going to read is about Grey's Anatomy, coincides with my costume, but it's about a different doctor. It's about very early seasons of Grey's Anatomy, and it's just called Izzy Stevens. Izzy Stevens falls in love with a patient with a failing heart, and honestly, same. I do not want to be seen, yet here I am. My name spelled out in IV tubes. I feel like anyone who could fall in love with me should have to sign some forms first to know that I am a marathon Scrabble session in your hospital bed kind of girl. A fall as hard as possible kind of girl. Gift shop chocolate and tabloids. I will beg you to let me resuscitate you. I will love you with the absolute certainty that you will leave. So that is Izzy Stevens. This next poem I was really excited about. I loved WandaVision. Loved it. So this is a WandaVision poem. It is written in hexameter because they're in the hex. And yeah, I was really interested in the whole thing about the Scarlet Witch losing her accent. So this is called Accent Elegy. It is very strange to be so full of chaos magic and to only ever get asked about my worst possible trick, a disappearing act completely unplanned and uncontrolled. I don't know how I did it. I only remember feeling lost and empty, alone, endless nothingness unhinged, the things we do for love when loss could snap us back at any moment. When you come from a ravaged country, a stolen people, goodbye is a love letter, losing part of yourself, a small penance, coins on the ground in a home that does not know your name, will not gift you with its words anymore. Oh, how a tongue can bleed forever and still forget the spaces it used to occupy effortlessly. The way I used to say my brother's name, twin song, our parents' decimated harmony, death, it follows me, this darkness, its magnetism, Maybe shadow is my inheritance instead. When you ask me where my accent went, I will give you the address to a graveyard, family plot, scribble a map back to an uncolonized land, a dance my own old body knew backward and forward. The last time an ancestor read my cards out loud, I will tell you I would recover it if I could. It's accent elegy. Thank you. I loved WandaVision. It was so good. It was so good. I got a dang tattoo. Oh man, we love feels, right? That's why we're all here. This next poem, speaking of feels, I'm getting all the sad ones out of the way first. It gets lighter. But this next poem is about the good place. And yeah, mortality. It's called We Finished the Good Place So Fast. We finished the good place so fast. I buy a pomegranate and they seemingly seasoned overnight, reminding me that Persephone never gets to stay and hang. Too many texts from her stupid ex or something. I can't stop thinking about this made up conception of time we live in or whatever. Committed ourselves to clocks and everything, like time could ever have a god, like we could be so stupid to deign that we are it. Listen, I cried when Chidi said goodbye to Eleanor. Not about the leaving, mostly about the suffering that somehow led to peace. Sometimes my executive dysfunction won't let me get to the point, so I will just say it. I don't know how to lose you. We are humans. Sad, fragile dirt clumps busted by a child stomping jelly sandal or the too strong wind, useless, always breaking into little bits. I will lose you someday. And fuck, I want to wrap time around my palm like a rosary. Each bead another life where we are each a kind of marbleized happy. If prayer meant that we wouldn't hurt, I would sit eye to eye with my candles and name each of their flickers after another of your heartbeats. I don't know about the good place or the bad place. I know about this place, the you and me place, the most astonishing place I have ever traveled. It means something that we are here. And I promise not to forget no matter how much sleep I lose. I am scared, but I am alive. Oh, how that sings in me. The rise and fall of your chest, the only door I want to walk through. That's We Finished the Good Place So Fast. This one's very short and goes into my Glee interlude. And it goes like this. Jesse St. James tells Rachel Berry that her dreams are anything but irrational, and all I've ever wanted is a gold star, a love that looks like it believes in me. That's that. This is a poem about Gilmore Girls. We're just flipping channels, friends. We're just flipping channel. I watched a lot of TV and I went through a breakup and then I ended up in this apartment alone. So I've watched a lot of TV and it's been my solace. And so you're getting just my last several months all in like 12 minutes. This is a poem about Gilmore Girls. Rory Gilmore stands up at the Stars Hollow Town Hall meeting. I tell you because you've already said you'll never watch Gilmore Girls, and you are not afraid of spoilers, or the future, or anything at all. Circling back to Stars Hollow, there's a troubadour turf war. Dean told Rory he loved her, and she did not say it back. Needed time to reevaluate, to read Howl and fold her shirts just so, and we aren't like that. And it's always been somehow so un-okay to everyone. When you told me you loved me, my heart filled up with 1,000 yellow daisies. Dotted the town square of me amidst sparkling East Coast snow. And I know it wasn't in person, and I know I haven't even held you yet. But circling back to Rory, she said, we need troubadours. What a gift to be able to say what you're feeling in something like a song, instead of fumbling at the right thing to say, always in danger of inhabiting heart ruin. And circling back to me, can I tell you, my suitcase is overweight with I love yous. No matter how many wrong things I might say, I hope you'll remember this very right one. My favorite street corner song, the humble spunk of twinkling pupils, too in love to manifesto into the night, just a simple pentameter of breath, a sonnet of the seconds until we are together again. Circling back to Rory, maybe she was uncertain, but I'm not. I don't think I ever could be, not as long as you keep saying my name. It's my Gilmore Girls poem. And yeah, I also shamefully watched all of Lena Dunham's Girls. I have a good reason. I had an ex who told me that Girls was my entire personality, and I needed to understand what that meant. And it hurt me a lot. I started another poem that I didn't finish where I said, when you said that Girls was my entire personality, by that, did you mean that I am annoying or a narcissist? Um, so, a party. But this is one of the poems that came out of my watching of Girls. Jessa tells Adam that they are just friends because they would destroy each other. And I don't even like this show, but I will also engage with any content that's willing to give my fear a name. I cannot divorce my softness from champagne bubbling at crushes canoodled over carnival games, the ember anime twinkle in the eyes of someone putting up a for rent sign in the window of their heart. And when you hold my hand, I have to be so careful not to let one foil balloon released into the sky turn supernova. Sparkling gutter trash flung to every corner of me, and looking at you feels different. And that feels stupid to say. And I don't know how to tell you that I'm scared of how long I could stay plastered to that one spot on your chest, breathing together like a song we both sang at the top of our lungs on a road trip. I'm scared of how much I need you to get way too excited and tell me about space, because this specific joy feels too bright to let go of. And I know if you tell me goodbye tomorrow, I will be sad, but putter into an eventual okay. I'm somehow still so scared of not impressing you every minute, forgetting to tell you goodnight or not sending enough little tiny blue light hearts. And ultimately, I am big scared of wanting this, because I do want this and all of its tiny carbonated bubbles, the sweet sparkler of your smile. So yeah, I hate watching Girls and thinking about fear, and maybe most things end in destruction, but I hope ours is like cherry blossoms going out of season, cutting and sublime. I hope that it's lovely, whatever it is. I hope that I get to destroy you for such a long time. This is the last poem I'm going to read. It's probably my favorite content related poem that I've written in all this time. And I've been on this journey of isolation and self-love and discovering the things that make me me. And in that journey, I've circled back to old things that I used to love when I was like a teen. And then you sit back and you go, oh, that's kind of bad. Why did I like that? And you have a moment and you're like, that's problematic. There's a lot happening here. So I watched 500 Days of Summer for the first time in years. And I felt like I had to write a poem about Ikea. And so this is that poem. But before I get there, I just want to say thank you again to Rob and to Moontide Press. Congratulations on your book. I cannot wait to pick it up. And I'm so excited to hear the other poets who are to read tonight. What a show. So exciting. Here's my Ikea poem. Here we go. I didn't go to Ikea with him because he was not right for me. He was actually aggressively very wrong. And I'm very glad that I did not waste my sacred Ikea virginity on him. I do not have an affinity for Swedish home goods or even meatballs. I just liked the soundtrack to 500 Days of Summer and wanted the opportunity to act out the suburban life I may never have. To meet a man who wants to draw a skyline across my arm up through my heart and who wants to sing 2 old songs at karaoke and talk about something quirky he knows too much about, like architecture or the Smiths. I'd love a relationship I could prescribe too much potential to, somewhere to pour all of my favorite songs and quotes and tattoo ideas to put on a pedestal so high up, even I cannot reach. I'm sorry for expecting so much of you, Ikea. I'm kind of manic pixie dream girling you here, expecting you to make me better, to provide some kind of endless love-filled thing I'm not even sure exists, to do it all simply because I showed up and did nothing else resembling any kind of work on myself or my life. And circling back to 500 Days of Summer, keep thinking about the problematic Mexican obsession with Morrissey and the Smiths and how we're always immersing ourselves in things that are active assimilation and only exist to bathe us in a hypocritical hurt. And circling back to doing work on myself, I think there's a lot I need to do before I even deserve to go to Ikea, or that honestly, I need to go there alone first just to have the reassurance that I can. It's okay to listen to sad music and watch sad movies and mope through a cross stitch, suffering and suffering and suffering, but only as long as I remember that that sadness is only mine. And so is the joy that will follow. So are the greeting cards I will give to myself and the 2-person sized order of takeout I will eat alone. There is a fully made Ikea bed waiting for me, just me. And the pillows are the exact right firmness and the sheets are soft. And the minute I lay completely, I fall asleep without the slightest unsettling thought. I dream. I drool a little too much. Someone wakes me up gently. It is a beautiful man. And as I move to kiss him, he pushes my shoulders abruptly and says, "Ma'am, you can't sleep in this Ikea. And you also can't kiss me. I'm married." And I go home to my cheaper, less comfortable bed and the life that I've built that is mine, only mine. Thank you so much. I'm Gigi Bella. This was so fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Gigi, for that awesome reading and fantastic poems and your energy, and it was great. Loved them all. So thank you so much for sharing in this experience with us, sharing your work with us, and being a part of Rob's launch. It was a lot of fun to hear you. Coming up next, we have Billy Tuggle. He's a teaching poet, poetry slam champion, and hip hop culturalist. He once faced down the Road Warriors and Superpowers in the parking lot before the Bunkhouse Stampede. Billy is also a member of the Professional Wrestling Writers Guild. Everybody, please give it up for Billy, everyone.
First of all, happy birthday, Rob. Second of all, happy book day, Rob. Third of all, it is an absolute freaking gas to do this, not only for and with Rob, but also with Gigi, who is amazing, and SaraEve. My name is Billy Tuggle from the South Side of Chicago. Let's read some poems. From a journal called Knight's Library, and for my best friend and my daughter's godfather. Falling off the city of New Orleans. The city of New Orleans is the nightly round trip made by Amtrak between Chicago and New Orleans along the historic Illinois Central Railroad. We could have flown. Some felt planes were still high style and the classiest, but even before the days of shoes off, I felt rushed and leered at. In airports, it's a good trip, a road trip, no doubt, with JT, the company, great, but this was vacation. Let somebody else do the work. Taking the train was rolling in with the party from Chicagoland to the Bayou. Cocktail in hand, Teresa come documentarian after an all-nighter of whiskey and backgammon. I awoke in my seat to some rare blues in my coffee, followed by a swamp of a Bloody Mary. When I fell off the city of New Orleans, it was at the speed of saunter, at the touch of vernal equinox, carnival beads littered trees, and left post parades as pomp sugar dusted low smiles. You fall off the city of New Orleans into an electricity so deliberate, the sun and the moon and the water take their sweetest time to shine, reflect, dance in tongues and streets twined in French and colonialism. Falling off the city of New Orleans means an alligator po' boy and pronouncing Pontchartrain, mouthfuls full of exotica for a Chicago boy. Falling off the city of New Orleans leaves a warm shiver of Madame Laveau spell casting in your tarot deck. Seeing ghosts awaken in your incense smoke is one thing, but to have them ask you to join them? Falling off the city of New Orleans is falling into the path of the party of working evening ladies and witch doctor pimps, frosty, spicy, sometimes rude grown-up beverages in the street, many shades of magic, worship calls in brass and funk bouncing across the night. Being lucky enough to fall off the city of New Orleans is enough luck to walk off of a riverboat, $360 sweated off of a blackjack dealer to pay for your traveler's lodge. Begin to pick yourself up, sharpen up, amble back to the train station, wondering when you and your brother will do it again. Falling off the city of New Orleans means carrying the night and Memphis and Mississippi and stash and taste and game and ink, saddled to a rowdy iron horse, trumpet player in the saddle. JT and me can't hear, come back, over the brass ringing in our ears, the gumbo still working these guts so sweetly, the voodoo telling after bedtime stories of bittersweet Americana, but we still reveled, and the swamps can't wash it away. Thank you. Mm. H2O. Mm. All that talk about booze in New Orleans. Tonight's reading is brought to you by water, Lake Michigan's finest. So I'm part of the Freeze Ray fam. I'm part of the underground sidebar Freeze Ray fam. That is a pro wrestling enthusiast and has been published by our good friend multiple times in a little journal called Hawk and Animal. It's all wrestling poems. That's mad geeky. Okay. Here's some geek shit for you from the upcoming issue. Mask versus Mask. 1. The gimmick. Basic. Wrestler loses matches. Stipulation banned for months. No legit promoter will book them. Nemesis takes bragging rights. Hero banished. One Christmas, Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, fell to the cult of Kevin Sullivan running Florida roughshod. One promoter unretired as an enforcer only to eat the pin in a Mid-South main event. A grudge followed Bruiser Brody around the planet and got him banned from the planet Texas. Mysterious hooded combatants suddenly arrive to avenge our heroes, restore honor, and underline Western hero complexes. 2. In Latin America, especially Mexico, Estrellas de Lucha Libre carry tradition of mystique. La Máscara extends legacy. It's practical for privacy. Japanese masked wrestlers, characters passed on for generations, created in parallel media dimensions, still require a promoter's favorite to carry the mantle. Sometimes generic name and mask protect guys just doing the job of selling superstars on TV. Some masks have gained more value than the main event trophy belts that are pop culture popular with rock bands and trick-or-treaters. What do we romanticize hiding? What is this fetish of hiding from? Is the mask protecting them or us? 3, the gimmick. 2 masked rivals, no time limit, no disqualification, fight to the finish, loser must unmask. The angle, masked wrestler is suspected to be suspended hero under the hood, wins world championship, but must unmask in order to keep it. Angle, nemesis of suspended hero offers cash bounty for their unmasking. Angle, the bet, mask versus title, mask versus hair, mask versus a car, a manager, a career. 4, maybe a competitor submitted too early, turned tail too quick, broke the wrong rules, fell victim to a corrupt referee, had to hide face to save face. Maybe the mask covers what we fear to do in the light, straying outside the lines, taking rules as suggestions, calling it altruism or a living, or even fuck it. The mask can just deflect so much light, reflects wrong and right, just enough shadow for a role model to hide a handful of brass knuckles. 5, the gimmick. Champion goes on rampage, protecting best buddy from nemesis with baseball bat, stripped of US championship, suspended for 90 days. My name is the Midnight Rider. I come from Diablo Canyon, Colorado. I come in violence and vengeance of the common man, the son of a plumber. I have come to rain havoc on anyone in my path, on horseback or horsepower, with this bull rope or empty hands, whether on the mountaintop with all the pretty gold, or by the bunkhouse, tape fists, shit kickers, whatever you can grab and swing, understand. This is less than wins and losses than it is chaos. That's why the mask. You put hard times on Rob Sturma and his family, so now you're gonna get harder times from the Midnight Rider. We might not make it back. This mission is revenge and restitution. Don't ask about the mask. You wouldn't ask the moon about its dark side, you understand. Let me reassure you, neither Dusty Rhodes nor Billy Tuggle is the Midnight Rider. But I do believe there's a little Midnight Rider in all of us. Thank you. Thank you. I'm gonna do 2 more. You can find me on both the Face Crack and the Instacrack Backpack Files. That's the easy way. That's the pro page. If you know me, you really love me, and I love you like I love Rob and SaraEve and Gigi Bella and oh, there's even Adrian and all these people. You can even find my personal page. I got room for more friends on Facebook and in my life. This poem is about a friend that I might have met. I might have talked to on the phone when I worked in a record store. I can't confirm nor deny it. But I have been in a room with this friend on at least 7 different occasions. This poem is dedicated to the life of Mr. Prince Rogers Nelson, whose birthday will be on July the 7th. Electric word life. Minister come maestro with tectonic production, teasing sin and salvation, strategic creativity, mostly on days ending in now. Painted in mosaic what he dreamed in 4 dimensions, found a compromise called music for what made war and love in his head. Coaxed subwoofers to quake, made them cry fine wine, fingers stroke keys, yearning for a cameo in compositions, making his guitars so damn jealous. When the conductor brought his most valuable players to your local arena, he wasn't bringing his jump shot, and he had a jump shot. But ultraviolet gospel, pheromone-soaked hymns, every surface a dance floor, an altar, every shout a prayer for the funk to free you, the rock to steady you, the soul to wrap around and guide you. Curfew is a suggestion. Tell your mama you ain't coming home until we are glamorous, until we party apolitical, until we dream the whole spectrum of humanity and love, until you dance electric under and over bridges to hearts, until you can pronounce him, until the rain separates red and blue, until the bombs stop dropping. Stop me if I'm boring you. Until permissive whispers tangle tongues, until space holds your horizon, until we are tangled in undulating 4/4, until guitars shred and wail and moan and throb of amplifier baptizes you in black sweat, until you forget where your river begins and ends, until the difference between love and lust is gravity. Know that this is testimony, 20,000 enraptured, bearing witness to funk and vision, to tears and strings, to sound and style, to scripture and playground, to art and hunger, to revelry and doves, to sex and history, to magnetism and love. A canon so sublime when he brought you to the temple, strobelit and breathless, and stripped you and them and him down to your rhythm. It is only then that you recognize it was all for you. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here. Thank you. One more, continuing with the rock and roll portion of our set. Thank you all. Y'all are awesome. Happy birthday again, Rob. I just turned 50 in February. And the cool part about being a half century or more is the things you can look back on and did. I wouldn't be having this conversation right now if I would have stayed on my original path. In my mid-20s, yeah, literally like 23, 24, right around the time I discovered performance poetry and open mics and slam, I had been a vocalist in bands. Prince was my hero. I loved Public Enemy and hip hop. A lot of you know me, knows a lot of my work comes from hip hop culture, but also if you know me, you know that I'm a huge fan of bands like Fishbone and Living Color, Soundgarden, rest in peace, Chris Cornell. He's been gone for about, I think, what, 4 years now, 5 years. And so there was a time in the early 90s that Black rock bands were really kind of foreign to popular culture and were really kind of making their comeback. Water break. So if some of you remember, right around the time that Soundgarden blew up, Fishbone had just gotten huge, out of the same scene as Guns N' Roses and the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And then in New York, right behind the Bad Brains on the East Coast came Living Color. And a while ago, I had done a poem called Negro Amplophobia about that. I went back and examined how I really felt when I was playing in bands myself. And it was around that age when I thought, because Fishbone and Living Color were headlining Lollapalooza and all that good stuff, that my band was next. We had to be next because we were champions, and just like these other guys who were grabbing Grammys and all that good stuff. So let me take you back in my time machine before I drop you back off at Rob's birthday party. Thank you all for having me. Please buy Head versus Heart and anything that Freeze Ray drops on you soon. This is called Obsidian Weight Champions. My name is Billy Tuggle. I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Obsidian, a volcanic rock, technically glass, can be as brittle as brilliant, very heavy in large deposits, craft blade dangerous when fresh, too hot to handle, can sharpen to surgical precision. These obsidian weight champions will bring a rock, massive and iridescent, edges so sharp that turntable stylus becomes weaponized, cuts that your local college DJ can't resist. Broadcasts will come with warning disclaimers. Gonna sound like earth heaving, grace under pressure until magma and steam create a vent the hard way, megaton blast, radiation and fallout encore. Gonna sound like Shango shaming the devil at a block party at the crossroads. This band is live alligator in your gumbo, rocket fuel in the whiskey, locomotives revving underground, melting the track in their wake. This band gonna sound like the Great Migration through Marshall Stacks. This band gonna be djembe, DJ, and effect pedal, gonna bleed unadulterated acid soul. Hip hop, even if ignored the beat drop, jazz finger solos and versus blues tempos, gut bucket woofers and gospel tweeters. This band gonna be the baddest, like recess kids at this band gonna be the baddest, like recess kids cussing with a motherfucking bullhorn. This band gonna escape every attic rehearsal with the taste for riot and a fuse lit by funk. Hit the switch, hit the goddamn pit. This band sounds like a frontman's last 100 spent on a long distance audition after flunking 2 midterms. True story. I almost blew off 2 midterms to audition for Bad Brains in 1991. I didn't study, I flunked the midterms and missed the audition. This band sounds like a frontman's last 100 spent on a long distance audition after flunking 2 midterms. Think you can see us in a battle of the bands? You got a problem on your hands. Come and get some of this shrapnel and angst and stomp and sway and all this gravity. See a griot reading the news and fortunes in the motion of a mosh, sounding like freeform poetry with ancestors whispering through the monitors. Hit him again, my child. Hit him again. This band will accompany Funeral Pyre and Phoenix Rising, gonna sound like subterranean, sub-Saharan, diasporic litanies and anthems. This band sounds like lift every voice and chant up the sound, Babylon, your throne are gone down. This rock, a fragile danger, gotta be handled with love. We arrive not just to rock the party and in all stages of matter, sweating electric current through dark matter, keeping current on dark matters, keeping current while in the dark matters. Like all descendants of Sister Rosetta, the obsidian weights will remix time, shred space, scratch surface to core, ignite the biggest bang, talking drum, lightning fury, and kinetic coda. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Billy, for that awesome reading, fantastic poems, and just everything you had to offer, man. Enjoy that Lake Michigan water. I love Lake Michigan. Good to meet you, man. Good to meet you. Coming up, rounding out the 3 poets celebrating Rob on his birthday. SaraEve Fermin is a performance poet and epilepsy mental health advocate from Northeast New Jersey. Her first full-length poetry anthology, You Must Be This Tall to Ride. Oh, that's a great title. I've heard it a lot of my life. I'm short for those of you who don't know me in real life. On Zoom, you can't tell, but I'm short. Was published by Swimming with Elephants Publishing, and her follow-up, View from the Top of the Ferris Wheel, was published by Claire Songbird Publishing House. Her third book of poetry, Trauma Carnival, was released by Swimming the Elephants Publications. She's currently working on a collection of poems about BoJack Horseman, and I'm laughing because you have a little BoJack in front. Believes in the power of Fox's hair dye and living furiously happy. She loves Instagram and follows back. I will post her handle in the chat. Also, I do encourage, I know Gigi did this, Billy, I posted your IG, but poets, please share ways that people can connect with you, buy your stuff, and all that goodness. So don't hesitate to throw that in the chat. Sarah, I will share your Instagram handle, and I am excited to hear your poems.
That's me, right? Okay, hey, so that was that. Hi everybody. I'm not apologizing. I'm just gonna let you know right now. There's been a 3 days worth of 90 degrees going on here in New Jersey, and I have no air conditioning, but I still did this because because I'm going to read you guys poems from, so the projects I have been working on for the last 2 years are poems that are all about BoJack Horseman and or mental health. If you know BoJack Horseman, they're poems that are about mental health as well. I decided, instead of having to try and explain this every time, I've actually written an introduction this time. Let's do it. So for anybody who does not know, BoJack Horseman is a show about a 50-something-year-old horse who back in the 90s was on a very famous TV show. It's set in a current anamorphic time and deals with a wealth of mental health issues, a dog with undiagnosed narcissism, a cat who suffers from infertility, drug use, depression. Nothing is off topic. I found BoJack at what I call the genesis of my mental health journey. The characters, in turn, and the poems helped me process a lot of the moments that have happened through my life. And so all of these poems are about the characters, but I'm pretty sure people are able to find things in their life to help them connect with them. If you want to become a BoJack Horseman fan, if you've never watched the show, hit me up and we'll talk about it at length. And now I'm just going to do poems. So this is, oh, by the way, happy birthday, Rob, because you're awesome. Thank you so much for having me read. Can you tell that the heat is like, I don't even know who I am. Thank you so much, Moon's High Press, for hosting me. This is amazing. Thank you so much, Freeze Write Poetry, for giving some of these poems a home, because I honestly thought that this project was something that everybody was going to be like, what is wrong with you? And they're gaining traction, and that means the world to me. And now, poems. Diane, single, New York City. Stops cutting her hair, lets her bangs grow out, likes the way the lawn flicks against her back, a warm hand that never lets go. Still takes the medications, sneaks into the complex next door to use the pool, swims away her insomnia, all the antidepressant weight. Never goes to Chinatown, not even for food, pays full price for the good leather knapsack that holds her everything she might need to start over. Still thinks about starting over. Still sees her ex-husband on television shows, still sometimes cries when she looks at the tabloids or the stars or sees a horse. Still wonders if her 30s were all just a dream one day. She reads all about Mr. Ed, how he wasn't a talking horse at all. They just rubbed peanut butter all on his gums. Wondered if she was the one doing the rubbing. Never eats peanut butter again. That's Diane Nguyen. She's a 30-something-year-old Vietnamese American who is a reporter, writer, whatever she wants to be, living in LA. This is Mr. Peanut Butter, the 2020 election. I keep doing this one because people really like it. Sorry if you've heard it already. If you haven't, people really like it. Mr. Peanut Butter is a narcissistic dog, but doesn't know he's narcissistic because everything keeps happening his way until the end. I sent you a note about that, Rob. Mr. Peanut Butter, the 2020 election. Didn't vote early. Had the time, just never got around to it. Changes parties every 4 years, doesn't think Trump is a bad guy or anything. Says he won't vote Republican this time. Nothing to do with the party, just can't stand hearing them talk about tax brackets or wealth disparity or civil injustices. Every time he shows up to work, it reminds him of his ex-wives too much. Ugh, what a drag, right? Always believes his women, even when he's there for his bros who can't tell the difference between a no or a no. It's just all too much. Turns out it premieres when the reporters ask him what he thinks about taxing the super rich or depression or his super problematic best friend. So tired of being attached to yet another tragedy, so tired of being ignored. So he starts going to support meetings for seeing eye dogs just to feel a little less sad, like an addict who sits outside a bar to remind themselves of how many days of sobriety they've collected. Thinks toxic masculinity is something you catch from a toilet seat, but he pees standing up, so he's not worried anyway. I always get lost. Anti-gun, but pro-war, like a sober person who thinks buying a drink is a favor. I mean, it's not his fault, right? He's just a sad dog, not a bad dog. Calls loneliness a party that has just gone off a bit. Isn't waiting for the numbers like the rest of us. Stumbled into a voting booth only after getting online to see where he was headed. Had 8 hours to kill, and isn't that such a rich man's game? Says he really doesn't mind who wins either way, and I wonder what it is like to have that privilege. To always wear the narcissist smile of, either way, I'm gonna come out on top. That's Mr. Peanut Butter. Not everybody on the show is an asshole, but I like to say that mental illness does not excuse you from being an asshole, and likewise, being an asshole doesn't excuse you from mental illness. They are exclusive. Sometimes they go with each other. You got to separate the two sometimes. This is for Princess Carolyn, who is a cat who is a manager for a lot of high Hollywood people and just wants to find love, which I feel makes sense in 2021. She just wants to find love. But this is Princess Carolyn's silent lament on the drive home, and it is inspired by a Facebook header actually that my friend had, and it said, "Please let me stay gentle," and that really stuck with me. So I said, please let me stay gentle. Forget these decades past, the times I emptied into your bed drunk, another woman's name spilling from your half-numb mind. Forget the vodka, forget the pills, hours I spent pressed to a dead phone, forget the apologies we did not mean. Forget everything I did to leave myself as I climbed into your lap, broken, needful. Forget the shame, call it the hook, catch and release love, call it wild horse who will not be broken, call it stray cat, belly full of kittens, quiet in the stable, hay in the sunlight, daydreams in the loft. She just wants love. It's understandable. I could do a crown of sonnets. I'm gonna do a crown of sonnets because Gigi's here. And honestly, Gigi, you inspired me to write a crown of sonnets. But I'm only gonna do 3 of them. Yeah, you did. In writing the book, I did a lot of exploring what I call the genetics of trauma. And if you're a fan of the show, it helps you really break down the genetics of trauma. And what I say it helps you understand the monsters that made the monsters in your life. I am self-estranged from my mother, my narcissistic mother, and don't know my father. So I'm raising myself and I'm doing a great job. Just turned 40. What's up? Thanks, guys. And these are the best years of my life. And these are sonnets for Bojack's grandparents. And in turn, they're sonnets for my grandparents because they're for the genetics of trauma. So this is a sonnet for Honey Sugarman, which is his grandmother. I think of Russians, the way they drink tea, sugar cubes nipped between teeth, small sips. I think of your name, how you are steeped in all of this sweetness, too much for man to swallow. How he bled you like a maple in winter, let the sap run out onto the snow, fed chewy candy disguised as love to your daughter. How children of trauma will feed off anything when starved for too long. How I carved the sweetness out of every memory, repurposed my monsters into a mother. Survival can be that which helps the medicine go down if the medicine is getting through it. Like ponies at a petting zoo, necks straining for sugar cubes. And this is a sonnet for Joseph Sugarman, his grandfather. He was not a good man. This is the first time I read this. Sonnet for Joseph Sugarman. When I climb up the ladder of my own insanity, it always ends in the image of my own grandfather, gun in mouth, leg amputated at knee, all the bottles my mother crawled into, hiding from that which made her. See Joseph throw his daughter's doll into the fire, see him throw his wife onto an operating table, blunt her tender, dull her eyes. See my father redact himself from my birth certificate, see nothing I own from my childhood, all of it purged, except the illness. See me paint my face, hide my lineage, see the pearls Joseph knots around his daughter's neck like a weight. See me drowning in all of this sorrow, generational. See Bojack pass me a drink, silent in the way we do not talk about these things. Let it mellow, ice swirling in a Scotch tumbler. And so this is a sonnet for Hollyhock, who has 8 polyamorous homosexual fathers who are in a relationship. And I'm not going to say all their last names, because it is very messy. And I'm just not going to do that. Like, I'm a super fan, but I'm not going to get on camera and mess that up. And then someone finds it and it comes back to me and then I get really mad. But this is a sonnet for Hollyhock, who turns out to be, well, I'm not going to ruin it for you guys in case somebody watches it. There are 2 types of people who come to IOP, intensive outpatient. Ones who call their mother a bitch and mean it, and ones who are still apologizing for their weight in a voice not their own. ones who have a seat claimed, and ones whose eyes roll with fear upon opening the door, paralyzed by the sight of so much blood and trauma just spilled out on the floor, self-made turnpike piled up, and no one will look away from it. There are ones who pass out gum and tissues, and one who never speak. There are ones who laugh and ones who have no use for humor. See it. I call my mother a bitch while laughing, tears in the corner of my eyes, and Hollyhock passes me a tissue. Can I do one more? I don't want to step on anybody's toes. And I did not time myself. It's the heat. Please don't. Okay. This is my favorite one, and I don't tell anybody that, but if you've watched the show and you are a writer, you will very much identify with Diane. I'm just saying, you might find some, there you go. You might feel some Diane feels when you watch Good Damage. There's a whole poem about Good Damage in my new manuscript. But this is Goodbye Letter to Diane Nguyen, ghostwriter of Hollyhock fame, caretaker of no one. I've been thinking about you, Diane, the same way I say I'll plant tomatoes every spring or lose 40 pounds as soon as I start getting off the couch, start walking. I mean, I'm sad again. And I know that sounds redundant when every one of my Spotify playlists exclaims sadcore bitch. I mean, I've been thinking about trying the medication again. Thinking about finding someone who will take me to the shooting range again. I mean, they keep opening up these hipster bars around me where you can pay for non-alcoholic mixology specials and fling axes at a bullseye while your friends Instagram it. And that's progress, right? Trading this guttural violence for vomiting in the gutter. I mean, I am tired of relapsing, and I don't mean falling into bottles again, the same old Alice in a Mad Hatter trick. I mean, there are still scars on my thighs from the last time I cut myself, and I don't think you are a cutter, Diane. But I feel like you know what it's like to be bled dry by your family, being around all that paper, writing all these obituaries in your head. I don't know why I'm telling you this. I mean, I like that you moved to Chicago, then Houston. I like to imagine that if love doesn't fit right, then you'll trust yourself enough to untether yourself and keep running. Glasses slipped. You'll untether yourself and keep running. I know it's why I know what it's like to keep getting everyone's last phone calls. It's why I keep my ringer off now. I feel like we could talk about this and you wouldn't get that dead look people get in the face when I talk about my trauma. I mean, my family. I like that you write pieces with long titles and overused punctuation. How can you not catalog a childhood of damage without semicolons and exclamations? It's how a writer overthinks, and I get it. I mean, I am always also in the middle of writing some grand piece. I mean, in the middle of working some shit out too. I mean, I like that you cut your hair, not because your life was falling apart. You wanted to see yourself new, unpartnered, caretaker of no one. I don't mean it's a manic thing. I like that you know yourself, or you know that you don't know yourself, but it's an okay thing, right? Maybe it's wishful thinking. Maybe I have been watching too much Intervention again and the lonely got in, but I know the difference between lonely and alone now. When I first met you, I didn't, but I did the work just like you. And I don't know why I'm telling you this, but I feel like you are the only one who would get it. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Moonside Press. Thank you, Rob. Happy birthday. Thank you, Billy. Thank you, Gigi. Thank you, all these happy faces on there. Again, if you want to talk about BoJack, just hit me up for real. And Freeze Ray, thank you so much too. This is awesome. Okay, take me off.
Thank you, SaraEve. All right, everyone. The time we've all waited for, the birthday boy, the book release man. I could read his bio that he sent us. You guys all know him as a pop culture poet, the editor-in-chief of Freeze Ray Poetry, a pop culture themed literary journal, but we're all here. We all know him. We all know that. He's also known for past editorial projects such as Aim for the Head, a zombie-themed anthology published by Right Bloody Press, and Multiverse, a collection of super heroic poems, also by Right Bloody.
Eric, aren't you in Multiverse? Don't you have a poem in Multiverse?
I do, but this is not about me, sir. This is about you.
It's a great poem, y'all. It's about Kitty Pryde.
It is about Kitty Pryde. Yes.
So good. So good.
My childhood and adulthood crush. So thank you for that. His first book, Miles of Hallelujah, was available for Right Bloody Press. This collection is a full-length collection of new and selected poems entitled Head v Heart, published by us. I'll share a link to our book page. If you have not purchased it and want a copy, you can do so there. But if you live locally to Rob, I'm sure he can get you a signed copy. In Oklahoma City, he helps curate the Red Dirt Poetry Open Mic. He finds the weirdest free streaming sites, plays Super Nintendo like a poser, and stays forever in love with all things pro wrestling. I've known Rob the entirety of my poetry career. Gigi, you and I just followed you on Instagram, so you and I can share Kitty Pryde love on Instagram. I knew there was a reason why I liked you so much. But yeah, I've known Rob. I've known Rob the entire time that I've been doing this whole poet thing, and he was a big part to making me into the community member that I am. I'm not just going to say poet, but in terms of this idea about being a poet is about building community, and you have more of a responsibility than just being a voice in that crowd, but you have to nurture other voices and create space, whether it be in at a reading or in a journal. So all the choices that I've made in my life as a poet and a community member is due to Mr. Rob, and I gush all over him in the forward of the book. So I'm not going to say anything else anymore. You can just buy the book, read the forward, and then read the poems. Without further ado, happy birthday, Rob.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Head versus heart, Head v Heart. It's named that because of there's a lyric from a Death Cab for Cutie song where he says, "I'm a war of head versus heart. It's always this way." Like that alone is my life, kind of. But pop music has always been a huge influence on my writing. On who I am as a person. I remember finding a cassette tape on the street, true story. I got off my dirt bike, there's this little cassette sitting on the street. I was like 10 at the time, by the way. I should probably clarify that. I was 31. I took this cassette, I re-spooled it and played it in my cassette player, and it was Atlantic Records R&B 1947 to 1974. It was the first time I'd heard a lot of classic R&B soul records, and the first song on that cassette was Wilson Pickett's Midnight Hour. That song, after that, I became a music snob in that songs had to open up that whole world for me, or I wasn't going to get into them. It's Midnight Hour, Every piece of that song is perfect. This is my love poem to the Midnight Hour. It's called The Midnight Hour and the Art of Waiting. I'm gonna wait till the midnight hour, until my love comes tumbling down. Gonna wait till the midnight hour, when there's no one else around. I'ma take you and hold you and do all the things I told you in the midnight hour. Now, I followed the instructions on the record, and I waited until the midnight hour. Your love came tumbling down in a cumulus avalanche, and there was no one else around, no witness to the way that your love made its way into pillows and t-shirts and summer dresses. In this, the most midnight of hours, your love began to shine like a new car, fresh off the lot. Your love had that new car smell. It had headlights that I froze in, but the stars then came out to attend that grudge match of Twinkle versus Eyes, dressed in their office casuals and hoping for a big box office finish. And you did all the things you said you would. You took me. You held me. Then you began to do all the things you told me. Okay, short list of things to do. Bring moonbeams home in a jar, keep a light on at the dark end of the street, show a little respect, but just a little bit. And now, in the hour that was hugged by 11 and 1, this all seemed more like a close encounter, like a quick abduction, a sighting. The pictures I took could have been doctored because no one, fireflies themselves that luminous. And the horn section faded out, the kick drum skipped away, playground ready, all the lights and tumble packed up. It was down to the way that the moon flickered off of midnight and the hiss and the pop of the vinyl at the end of the song. It whispers to me, the needle never leaving that last groove, diamond and petroleum wax, whispering rhythms that sound like infinite patience, like waiting 23 hours for the next 60 minutes, for making it all the way to the middle, for the whisper and crackle of this magic moment. That's my midnight hour poem. I've been reading poems out loud for a long time, and I get nervous when I opt to like sing 2 lines in a poem. That makes me more nervous than reading any of my darkest, deepest thoughts. It's the weirdest thing. Thank you for indulging me. Hey, speaking of musicals, Gigi, in like 2 weeks, you're going to be putting on the last 5 years, a production of that online, yes?
Yes, it is a
Okay.
virtual production of the last 5 years, which means this is the only time in history that I can invite you across the country and you can attend. How exciting.
Yes.
I have seen your comments on my advertising or anytime I post about the show, and it makes me so happy because much like you, singing in front of people, I love to do it, but it makes me nervous. So
yes,
yeah,
best of both worlds. So it just so happens in the new book, I have a poem about my relationship with the last 5 years.
Shut up.
And kind of how it's well, I'll just read it out loud. And yeah, if you could put your link to the to your show in the chat, that would be amazing. Thank you. So this is called The Last 3 Viewings. I've said over and over again that the movie adaptation of time-bending musical The Last 5 Years, the story of a declining relationship told from its start to its finish, or finish to start, really depending on who's singing, may not be the perfect film to watch on a first date. I say this, and yet I have watched it on a first date more times than I care to count. I tell myself and my date it's because the structure of the musical is so groundbreaking. See, Kathy's songs start with the aftermath of the divorce and careen backwards in time to the successful first date. Jamie's songs go from successful first date to I went downtown and closed the bank accounts. It is the definition of insanity to expect the next first date to be the last first date when the same orchestrated glimpse of poorer days continues to be screened as some dysfunctional litmus test, this death knell of this new but soon to be old pairing. I can't remember if it was Shakespeare or Roger Rabbit who said, "How do I love thee? Let me count the ways I will bring the house down," and not in the sense of a great performance of a sad musical. When I say bring the house down, I mean watch the walls collapse inward, the torn off this motherfucker, all due to the foundation on which it sits. This foundation that has been sabotaged by rabbits burrowing underneath it. I used to think that the rabbits were made of Heineken and $2 shots of whiskey. I used to think the rabbits needed too much attention, and so they were just acting out. It is only recently that I have looked closer at the rabbits, and by God, they are me. They are me in a bunny suit singing, I got a singular sensation. Things are moving too fast when I should be easing into promises about, say, the next 10 minutes. But because I have my floppy ears so far up my hutch, I start my relationships with the end. I can bend 5 years into months or weeks if I'm feeling ambitious. When I am this skittish, it's fight or flight, and I can't leap to conclusions fast enough. So there I was, in the bunny suit again, trying to act like I didn't know where this was headed, trying to act like I didn't sing these songs twice a day like medicine to salve my rabbit heart, and that I won't sing them again, even when I am happy as a lark. The goths got it right. Line up those sad songs in advance and then just wait for the second act. I am rebuilding, but I am still hurting. I am moving too fast, but a miracle could happen. Remember the time you said, I don't think I can do this. And I said, okay, let's do this. And you said, I love these playlists, but slow down. And I said, oh, cool. I will make you a playlist. And you said, when this stops being fun, we stop. And I said, when did this stop being fun? And we said, you're not the only one who's hurting here. I don't know what the hell is left to do. And we should have started with a happier ending. We should have taken a left turn at Albuquerque. We should have just shut up and fucked like bunnies. We should have left this night clean and quiet. I have said this more times than I care to count. I have watched this first date over and over again, wrapped up inside that one perfect kiss, a goodbye, a tomorrow, a shaky foundation, making way for breaking ground. Thank you. I'm going to break this up with a haiku. It's not in the book. It should have been in the book. It is pop culture based. It's one of about 2 haiku that I've ever written that I like. Randy Savage and Kool-Aid Man said, "Oh yeah," just like your mom did. Trash talk in the haiku. About 7 years ago, I stopped drinking the demon alcohol. For better or worse. We'll find out. And so, you know, sometimes when you end up writing about that stuff, I felt like when I got sober, in my brain for a while, I felt like I was a really boring person all of a sudden. It's like, man, I used to be so fun when I was throwing them down, and I got nothing to contribute to So this is kind of about that. It's called TMNT, or When Did Turtle Power Become So Relatable? I am a teenage mutant ninja turtle, a teenager in dog years, and this year I am dog tired, sober 7 years, but some days it feels like 49. I used to be super cowabunga fun, but I have changed. The very definition of sober, serious, moderate, subdued, I have mutated into someone less human, more of a shadow. I could silently walk away and none would be the wiser. I think I'm supposed to be a hero, but this thin mask isn't fooling anybody. We all know who I am, what I am in this version. Darkness is my uniform now. Sobriety, a shell I retreat into. I am a mutation. I continue to change. Not always for the better, but I cannot live on pizza alone anymore. It's evolve or die, and I live on. And these evolutions may not be pretty. I may not be your favorite anymore. I wasn't better back in the day, just different, but staying underground is how I was raised. Every few years, I think maybe it's time for a revival, but now fading into the background has become my best skill, my weapon of choice. I am a teenage mutant ninja turtle. Tell me how silly I am, how much cooler I was last century. I understand. Call me fluke or freak or lucky break, but I had a good run, didn't I? Did I make you smile? Made you feel safe and beautiful? Isn't that why happy accidents like me were created? Heroes in a half shell. Turtle power. Oh, I wrote a limerick. And I forgot about it until I was going through my notepad app. It's about Michael Scott from The Office. And I'm so mad at myself. I labeled it Mike Koo just because I thought that was a clever thing to name it, but it's not a haiku in any way, shape, or form. It's a goddamn limerick. But it didn't write Limmer Mike does all right. Michael Scott is just sick in the head. To be single, it fills him with dread. His psyche stays scarred. He tries, and it's hard. It's so hard. Well, that's what she said. It was just Carrie Fisher's birthday recently. Space Mom. Carrie Fisher means a lot to me as a I don't know, like for someone I've never met, her story very much helped inform my sobriety story. And I'm forever grateful to her for sharing her story with us while she was still with us. So I wrote that I was supposed to write a poem for a Buffy the Vampire Slayer themed poetry slam. And I wrote this instead. This was supposed to be a Buffy poem. An HBO special presentation. The year is 2010. Carrie Fisher monologues about her addiction to booze and painkillers. In 2010, I am drinking my way across America on my first book tour, wearing a do or do not, there is no try t-shirt, carrying me, practically twins. The write-ups for her one-woman show call it intoxicating. Intoxicating. It's a clever way to describe a show about recovery. It's cute. It's at least as adorable as all the times I performed on stages half in the bag. Spoiler alert, this was going to be a poem about Buffy season 6 when Willow becomes addicted to magic and Tara leaves her. So throughout her one-woman show, Carrie Fisher maps out the trail of her failed relationships. Some are celebrated in song, others become extended punchline. My emotional Wikipedia states that song and punchline are my two favorite coping mechanisms, not counting the abracadabra of another round. Because once you get a taste of the magic, you don't want to put it down. It makes you burn brighter. Willow knew the bodies left in its wake, good people consumed fast and tossed aside like empty bottles. They know. Ask any LA bar regular about their Andy Dick story. Everyone in Los Angeles has an Andy Dick story. It's become almost mythic. The levels of his inebriation, his insane behavior. During my Andy Dick story, Andy gets mad and yells at me, "Where's your show, mister? Where's your show?" To point out that my magic is not as powerful as his. My magic is a mere card trick of paper flower tucked in a sleeve. And in this moment, I feel so very small, as if millions of voices suddenly cried out in terror and were suddenly silenced. But this is not about me. It was supposed to be about Willow or Carrie or Los Angeles or magic. Buffy closes the Hellmouth on May 20th, 2003. It takes me 11 more years to kill my own demons. 2 years later, one of my recovery heroes drowns in moonlight, strangled by her own bra, which was the obituary that Carrie Fisher asked to be printed when she died. But I'm still here, though, and I'm learning how to make magic through wishes or prayers or sleight of hand. I am a one-man show soaked in song and punchline. I'm trying so hard not to get canceled. I'm trying so hard not to go up in smoke. Thank you. I have one more. Thank you so much for being here, for reading and sharing and listening and supporting and like being fucking bedrocks in my life. Gosh darn it. I love you all very much. And speaking of not drinking, Tuesday night at the Sober Bar, one of the regulars sits cross-legged on the bar stool and demands another shot of wheatgrass. Keep them coming. And a mango smoothie, please, because this shit tastes like a lawnmower. Tuesday night at the Sober Bar, men sit without swaying, using lines like, "I am so hydrated right now." The impulse control in here is off the charts. Everyone here knows exactly what they're doing. The late night texts composed in this place, all super deliberate. We've installed a ramp straight to the doorway because we know that 12 steps don't work for everybody. Make your way in at your own pace. The revolving door is always open. Okay, so there's a dude slumped over in a booth trying to kick caffeine. He's very quick to anger, but he's too slow to properly swing at you. Oh, we have a drink special here, pineapple juice and club soda called the Apology. It gets asked for left and right. There are so many apologies in a sober room. Oh, are there meetings here? Yeah, of course. The Advanced D&D group meets every Sunday. We're playing the Pink Cloud campaign, where our heroes have like limited immunity, or at least it feels like they do. Like that's a beginner's campaign. Oh, speaking of games, Thursday night at the Sober Bar, it's trivia night with questions like, for 10 points, what have you done for the last 20 years? For 20 points, what could you have done? For 50 points, what really is an addict? For 300 points, why should we believe you've changed? Fun for the whole family, a game that everybody wins. I promise, friends, the Sober Bar is not a sad place. It's often sharp and extra witty, and the tip jar here is stuffed with $5 bills and smart-ass quips like, oh, here's a tip. Try using licorice root if you want to quit smoking. Oh, here's another tip. Don't try to smoke it. So it's last call at the sober bar, and the jukebox has gone from recovery to hang me up to dry. It's rattled off anthems and diversions. It's raised a glass to freedom, and for its last number, it plays a little small change as last call anthem to get the patrons back to their binging Netflix, binging one day at a time, of course. Lights up, tabs closed, stragglers singing to the night air. The piano has been drinking. Not me, not me, not me, not me, not me. Thank you so much. Head versus Heart, now available on Moontide Press. Follow the link and buy 30 copies.